Hello and welcome to the Experiencing Love podcast. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. I want to talk about persistence today, and the very art of persistence, and the discipline of persistence, and just practicing persistence. I'm learning now, real time, just how important having the ability to persist is. I'm learning just how important it is because I'm witnessing just how much I'm not going to be perfect. I've talked about it before about how perfection gets in the way of greatness, yet there's still this ideal that I have in my head that I might be able to get to. And part of that drives my never-ending improvement, but if I'm not careful, I use that ideal as a standard. It's not wrong to have high standards for yourself or the people around you, but it's not the best thing in the world to have such high standards that nobody can meet them, especially yourself. So when I have these ideals of constantly improving and constantly raising my standards, what happens is when I don't meet those standards, when I slip up and fall back into an old habit for a day or for even an hour, sometimes all it takes is a couple minutes to make a mistake. It could be a single decision where you weren't in the right headspace, you didn't quite give yourself the time to ask if this is a good idea. And then hindsight is 20/20 and you see that, yep, you did make a small mistake. And then you have to deal with the consequences. You have to deal with the consequences of a mistake, but when you set standards too high, sometimes the consequences that you add onto it, like the shame and the guilt of not doing what you said you were going to do or not living up to your own standards, adds onto it. For example, from myself, I've spent the better of the last 6 to 8 weeks on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. I found that just personally it works for me. It helps me feel more energized. It helps me not feel bloated, not need to take naps. And yet I find myself at times testing the waters or trying certain foods out. But trying it out in the way of, I know it has gluten, I know it has dairy, and it's almost as if I want to see how my body will react. And well, today I was very hungry in the morning, and that thought won. That thought was the winner when I was making a decision, and so I had some food that I knew would not make me feel well, and yet I chose to have it anyways, and right now I am dealing with the exact consequences. I feel sluggish, my stomach hurts a little bit, I'd rather just lay down and nap, and what I'm taking from all of this is, for starters, the way my body feels right now, I'm making it seem worse than it is so that I remember why I'm changing. And the big takeaway, the thing that I'm really focusing on is that I can't do anything about the past, but I have to keep persisting. I have to keep trying in the future. It's important to keep trying. And this is more than just for my diet or exercise or whatever else is going on, because I see persistence as crucial for success in any area of my life. Because the opposite of persistence is giving up. And as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with giving up as long as you're replacing it with something better. But if you're just giving it up for the sake of giving it up, well, that's not right. Because what that means is you haven't learned what you're meant to learn from that experience. And that means you're going to be doomed to repeat it. You're going to be doomed to repeat the same lesson over and over until you learn what you're meant to learn. By, quote unquote, giving up on something, by replacing it with something better, in a way that's you acknowledging that you learned the lesson you were meant to learn from that experience and you're leveling up. You're choosing something better. This could be said the same for relationships, where you have a habit of choosing the same type of person that doesn't quite serve you right, and you have the option of either giving up completely or persisting in trying to find the person that's right for you. What it also means is learning the lessons and getting the gift of growing from those experiences so that you can level up. Because in this situation, the one about my diet, I can try to do the same thing again. The thing that I've been doing for about 5-6 weeks now, I can just try to repeat that. And I could guarantee this for myself, if I just do that, I know I'm going to slip up again. I know I'm going to make the same exact mistake and the same exact decision that I've made today. The reason being, I didn't learn the lesson that I was meant to learn. And I think even now, I'm not quite 100% sure what that lesson is. And as I say it out loud, I'm realizing I'm going to have to think a little bit more on it. Maybe the lesson is persistence. Maybe the lesson is to try even when you slip up. I think that's just an important lesson, period. And that might not be the lesson that will prevent me from making the same mistake again. I'm not saying I'll never make mistakes, but not the same one. Sometimes I just have to pause myself and take notes on the things that I'm talking about. I come into these episodes wondering what I'm going to talk about and if it'll even be relevant for anybody. And then I just start talking, and I find myself often coaching myself in the way of giving myself the insights I need in order to continue growing and evolving. These episodes are just a documentation of that. It's just something that I could return to, or someone else can return to see what was Philip like back in 2025 and what's the trajectory that he went on since then. So I admit that I made a mistake. I did something that caused harm to my body. I don't feel great. Yes, it's not the end of the world, but just because something's not the end of the world doesn't mean you have to repeat it again and again. It doesn't have to be the end of the world in order to be a lesson. I think there's a big lesson I'm missing here. Something overarching, something that has to have done with the last few weeks, not just today. I don't think this was a decision I made today. I think this was a decision I made weeks ago when I started this journey, this diet. I won't say I set myself up for failure, but in a way, I didn't cover up all the pitfalls. And that's what's fascinating about this, because I have the opportunity to try again, but this time to choose a different path, to cover up the obstacles or the pitfalls that could get in my way. And what I'll learn is when I cover up one, a new one will appear. One that was always there, but I never would have gotten to until I solved the previous problem. So no, it won't be perfect from here on out, but there's something that I'm going to learn that could very well change my life. It could change my life by just 2 degrees, a 2mm shift. But that shift can completely change where I end up. I'm going to need a bigger download for that one, that's for sure. So while I wait for that download, maybe coax it out through meditation or journaling, or just waiting to see what I see or hear in the universe, I'm going to let you go on your way. Today is a beautiful day to have a beautiful day, and I truly thank you for being here. Remember to always fill up with the love, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Truly, I do. I love you.